Welcome to the channel, guys. Well, the Trump administration is delivering wins left and right, and the globalists are scrambling. Today, we've got a massive Supreme Court victory that could save the midterms. We have a secret high-level trip to Moscow that has the deep state sweating. The largest visa crackdown in history hitting asylum abusers, and President Trump putting Canada in its place on trade, and a full court economic press against Iran. These are the stories you guys want to hear about. It's a news roundup. The legacy media soft pedal or spin. Stick around, smash the like button. It's a huge boost to the channel. I totally appreciate it. All right, so the Supreme Court ruled on mail-in ballots today. This is huge for election integrity. Now, remember, President Trump could declare a national emergency on elections, and the courts can't rule on that. He still has that in his toolbox, but the reason he hasn't used it thus far is he was waiting for the Supreme Court to rule, which they did today. In a major 6-3 win, an emergency ruling, the High Court lifted a lower court injunction that had blocked Trump's executive order on mail-in ballots. That order requires the Department of Homeland Security to compile verified lists of eligible adult U.S. citizen voters and directs the U.S. Postal Service to deliver mail-in ballots only to those people on the list. States must turn over their voter registration records for cross-checks against federal citizenship and death databases. Non-compliant states risk losing mail-in ballot delivery service. So, if they don't follow the protocol, they won't get mail-in ballots. We're talking New York and California. Now, mind you, these states are going to try and sue again. So we haven't come to a resolution here, but this is really huge. It's common sense. Mail-in ballots have been the least transparent method of voting for years. The Carter-Baker Commission cited mail-in ballots as the #1 source of election fraud, ripe for the kind of problems we saw in 2020. Blue states like California, Minnesota, and Illinois have long been accused of bloated voter rolls with non-citizens, deceased voters, and inaccuracies. Now, the Trump administration can finally start cleaning that up before the midterms. The court didn't rule on the full merits yet. It said that the lower court jumped the gun on jurisdiction, but the 6-3 conservative majority cleared the path for immediate enforcement. The Postal Service, which issued a 95-page instruction on how they're going to handle the elections from here on out, yesterday already issued detailed rules to make it happen. And that's what happened yesterday. Democrats are panicking, of course. They're used to unrestricted mail-in ballots that favor their machine. This is momentum. It puts more pressure on Congress to finally pass the SAVE Act, real proof of citizenship for voter registration and nationwide voter ID. President Trump has been crystal clear. We need honest elections or we don't have a republic. And that's just a fact. And most Americans agree on that statement. This ruling is a big step towards securing the midterms. America first means American citizens decide American elections, period. All right, second story we have CIA Director Ratcliffe's surprise visit to Moscow. Breaking developments out of Moscow that almost no one saw coming. Director Ratcliffe just made an unannounced trip to Russia, landing on a U.S. Air Force C-17 transport plane the first such high-level military aircraft landing in Moscow since the start of the Ukraine war. Flight data and reports confirm he arrived via Latvia. This is Ratcliffe's first publicly known visit to the Russian capital as CIA director. Neither Washington nor the Kremlin is giving details yet, but sources indicate high-stakes talks. Remember, President Trump has made ending endless wars a top priority. Previous efforts, including talks around Anchorage, hit roadblocks from European globalists and the deep state. Now Ratcliffe, a Trump loyalist who has kept the CIA out of the public drama we saw under previous administrations, is on the ground. Reports suggest the visit could involve Ukraine de-escalation, pressure related to Iran, or broader strategic discussions. The U.S. even asked Ukraine to pause certain strikes while the delegation was there. Basically asked for 3 days of don't shoot in this area because the CIA director is landing. Extreme security or secrecy, yet the plane landed in daylight, a signal that this administration isn't hiding from the American people the way the last one did. Guys, this is what's competent America first diplomacy looks like. Trump trusts Ratcliffe, like completely trusts him. No more neocons dragging us into forever wars. The goal is peace through strength, wrapping up conflicts so we can focus on America, not endless foreign entanglements. Keep watching this one closely. Something big is happening. Representative Luna put a tweet out today with a dove in it, which would signal to me that this is some kind of peace talk, and it would make sense that it would be about Ukraine, but I'm sure they're talking about multiple issues. All right, the third story, mass visa revocation of asylum abusers. On the border and immigration front, another massive Trump win. The State Department under Secretary Marco Rubio is moving to revoke the B1 and B2 business and tourism visas of foreigners who entered the U.S. claiming short-term visits, then turned around and filed for asylum to stay permanently. Officials say this could affect up to 200,000 people, potentially the largest single mass visa revocation in American history. It's happening on a rolling basis in coordination with DHS. These are people who abuse the system. They got visas meant for temporary stays between 2016 and 2026, then gamed the system and claimed, asylum to stay forever. Under President Trump, a visa is privilege, not a right. The administration has already revoked over 175,000 visas since taking office, targeting criminals and other threats. This next wave shuts down a major loophole. I've got a couple videos on this for you. Let's check them out.
New crackdown on visa fraud. The State Department now targeting people who enter the country on visas claiming to be short-term visitors and then later applying for permanent asylum. Welcome to a brand new hour of America's Newsroom. I'm Dana Perino. Bill Hemmer is off, and you are with me.
Great to be with you as always, and good morning to you.
Thanks for being here.
I'm Bill Malugin. The Trump administration is preparing to revoke the business and tourism visas of as many as 200,000 foreign nationals who are seeking asylum. This would potentially be the biggest mass visa revocation in United States history. State Department spokesman Tommy Pigott calling the unprecedented crackdown on visa fraud a vital priority.
A government approach, a whole of State Department approach. It comes from identifying those travel patterns all the way to the communication at consular officers to make sure that people know that if they are engaged in fraud, if they lie to consular officers when they're applying for their visa, there will be consequences.
Senior national correspondent Rich Edson is live in Washington with more. Hi, Rich.
Hey, good morning, Dana. Well, the administration is targeting these visas issued over the past 10 years to foreigners who are now requesting asylum here. The Deputy Secretary of State, Chris Landau, posted, quote, "People in the U.S. and all over the world are fed up with bogus asylum claims. The system has long been swamped by frivolous asylum claims, meaning that it takes years to adjudicate whether applicants are actually entitled to asylum, during which time they can typically work, have children, and otherwise put down roots in our country."
So the open borders crowd and NGOs will scream, cruelty. Ignore them. Real Americans have watched cities strained by illegal immigration, fentanyl pouring across the border, asylum fraud for years. Trump is delivering the enforcement he promised. Secure the border, enforce the law, put American workers and taxpayers first. This is how you restore sovereignty. We'll take a look at one more quick video on it.
The Trump administration is expected to launch the largest mass visa revocation in history, targeting up to 200,000 foreigners over time, according to officials. They are business and tourism visas of foreigners who have applied or are actively currently seeking asylum in the U.S. A State Department spokesman says they are coordinating with Homeland Security to identify and revoke the non-immigrant visas of foreigners who have come to the U.S. short-term, but then file for asylum to stay permanently. This action is likely to face legal challenges. Brett?
We'll follow that. Mike, thank you.
Okay, let's go to story 5. Operation Economic Outcast crushing Iran's lifelines. Finally, maximum pressure on the Iranian regime. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent announced Operation Economic Outcast, an unprecedented campaign to sever every remaining economic lifeline funding the Islamic Republic and the IRGC. New sectorial sanctions target digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. Over 60 entities, individuals, and vessels are being sanctioned. The U.S. is expanding secondary sanctions. Any country, bank, or company still doing business with Iran risks being cut off from the U.S. dollar system. Bessent called it an economic onslaught and an economic D-Day. Nations get a short window to cut ties or face unilateral action. Let's hear Scott Bessent on it.
Any entity that facilitates money laundering on behalf of Iran will be removed from the U.S. dollar system. The clock just started ticking. The new sectoral sanctions determinations issued today target 5 of Iran's most vital lifelines that it exploits in other countries: digital assets, technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. These measures broaden secondary sanctions risk for anyone foolish enough to continue conducting business with this regime.
All right, this comes as the conflict with Iran continues and Trump pushes for isolation of the regime. No more half measures. The Iranian theocracy funds terror, pursues nukes, and destabilizes the region. Trump's approach is clear. Choke off the money until the regime has no choice. Peace through strength works. The globalists who enrich themselves off Iranian oil and trade are being put on notice. We'll take a listen to one more opinion on what's going on in Iran, excuse me.
Monday, Secretary Treasury Scott Bessent announced Operation Economic Outcast, a U.S. plan to isolate the Iranian regime. Among the new sanctions that were announced are secondary sanctions that are actually targeting a variety of different assets, including technology, gold, aviation, and shipping. In addition, the Treasury Department sanctioned nearly 60 entities, individuals, and vessels in multiple jurisdictions. The actions go after what the department describes as a network of shadow fleet vessels operating across many different countries. Iranian officials threatened retaliation to the economic measures, with the country's foreign ministry spokesperson saying this.
Any complicity with the United States in carrying out its aggressive actions against Iran will certainly have consequences. Even now, the naval blockade of Iran amounts to an act of aggression. Any escalation of this situation will undoubtedly bring about consequences of its own.
Early this morning, another tanker was struck in the Strait of Hormuz with an unknown projectile while transiting the U.S.-approved southern route. The vessel had damage caused to its engine room and was disabled. Secretary of War Pete Hegseth warned Iran against taking further provocative action on Monday.
If Iran is foolish enough to overplay their hand or mess with the American military, we'll do what we need to do. But economic pressure, we know, hurts them the most right now. But by no means are we foreclosing using kinetic strikes anywhere in the Strait of Hormuz or around Iran.
We're also tracking another development in the region. Syria has been taken off the U.S. state sponsor of terrorism list. This was met with praise by Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara, who said his country is focused on rebuilding.
All right. So I was going to cover the Canadian trade policy, what happened with Trump. But you know what? We're already at 16 minutes. So let's close this out. That was the top 4 stories going on right now I wanted to bring to you. Guys, thank you for being here. Please make a comment. Let me know what you think about any of these stories or all of them. And I'll see you in the comments. God bless and have a wonderful day.